No one expected a quiet Sunday morning to unravel into chaos, least of all me. One moment I was sipping coffee, the next I was watching my daughter, Sarah, stare down a man with a gun. Not just any man, Vince Malone, self-declared community protector, waving a pistol at her like he was auditioning for a role in a cop show nobody asked for. Sarah stood in her running shoes, sweat dotting her brow, smirking as if she couldn't decide whether to laugh or dismantle the guy. 5 seconds, that's all it took before neighbors trickled out, drawn by the tension in the air. It all started with the HOA's genius idea to hire security without oversight. Vince Malone, a reject from authority, was their pick. No badge, no training, just delusion in mirrored shades. 2 months prior, we'd moved to Cedar Grove Estates, a suburban dream of wide lawns and winding trails. Sarah, a retired Marine Corps instructor, had traded boots for garden gloves, easing into life at a slower pace. But peace doesn't last long when someone like Vince is around. I should have listened when Mr. Larson shook his head over morning coffee. That wants trouble, he warned. Thinks he's quieter. I brushed it off. I was wrong that morning. The sunrise painted the sky pink and gold as Sarah laced up and hit the trail. I poured my second cup of coffee. 20 minutes later, screeching tires, shouting voices, and my mug hit the porch as I bolted. At the trailhead, a crowd had gathered, phones raised. Sarah stood calm, ice in her veins, facing Vince, who barked, "Show ID. Suspicious behavior, you're trespassing." Her voice was smooth steel. "And if I don't, what then? Gonna arrest me, deputy dog?" He raised the pistol, white-knuckled. Gasps echoed. But Sarah, trained in handling threats, stepped forward with quiet command. "You sure you want to do this, Vince? You sure you're ready for what happens next?" His grip faltered. In a flash, Sarah moved. Wrist twist, gun stripped, magazine popped, pieces clattering to the dirt like broken toys. Cheers erupted. Vince stared at his dismantled weapon in disbelief. Sarah dusted her palms. "Better call your boss." "Oh, wait, you don't have one." Real deputies arrived. They shook Sarah's hand, exchanged knowing looks. Vince tried to vanish into the background, but the HOA wasn't laughing. Mrs. Caldwell, the HOA president with perfect hair and a mask of charm, arrived, perfume first. She begged Sarah not to press charges, for the community's sake. Offered a year of waived dues. Sarah just smiled. "I'll think about it." But I recognized that smile. It wasn't forgiveness. It was calculation. They thought it was over. They didn't know Sarah. She didn't retaliate immediately. That wasn't her style. She was a tactician. She played long games. After disarming Vince, she jogged back like nothing happened, tossed me a grin. "We're gonna have some fun." I didn't ask. I'd seen that look in her Marine days. Calm before the storm of 4 days, she was all smiles and small talk, jogging, chatting, asking questions. Beneath it, she was gathering intel. Who hired Vince? How? Why no vote? Why dues spent without consent? Turns out Vince wasn't a volunteer. The HOA had paid him under the table. No screening, no approval. Just a check from a beautification fund to fuel his fantasy patrol. Sarah wanted receipts. One night we crept out, planting hidden cameras at the clubhouse, trailhead, and HOA office. It felt like a covert op. My adrenaline buzzed. Hers? Steady. Soon, footage rolled in. Vince harassing a teen for cycling too fast. Intimidating a mother over party balloons, $500 or I'll shut it down, he growled. Sarah archived it all. This is leverage, she whispered, storing it on her laptop. Then came her infiltration. Disguised as a friendly new neighbor, Sarah got into an HOA meeting. Over stale pastries, the board spilled secrets. Vince's expenses were buried in landscaping budgets. His badge was bought online. And worst of all, they plotted to fine us into leaving. They don't know who they're dealing with, Sarah laughed, recorder in hand. She wasn't just after Vince anymore. She wanted the whole rot exposed. For every silenced resident too scared to speak up, she built her case like she was constructing a fortress. Videos. Screenshots. Money trails. Meanwhile, Vince cruised by, smug and clueless. Sarah waved, then came the bait. "Let them think they've won," she said. "They'll show their hand." We played nice. Paid dues. Baked cookies for a board event. Caldwell squirmed. The retaliation hit fast. A violation notice etched into our door claimed our flag was unauthorized. Then came lawn fines. Jogging complaints. All documented, then it escalated. Sarah's tires were slashed. A ticket taped to her window read "Menace to the community." She didn't flinch. Instead, she reviewed her cameras, caught Vince in the act, blade in hand, face lit clear. "Got him," she said. She compiled her dossier and sent it to the sheriff's office, local news, and the DA. But she wanted more than justice. She wanted spectacle. She hosted a Patriots Day barbecue, open invite, local veterans honored. The HOA couldn't object. It would look unpatriotic. Sarah planned every detail. Tents, banners, press kits. Neighbors showed up. News fans too. Mid-speech, she handed the mic to reporters. They unloaded, playing footage of Vince's threats and Caldwell's scheming. Gasps turned into murmurs. Murmurs to outrage. The board panicked. Deputies served investigation notices on site. One shook Sarah's hand. The board's mask shattered. Headline after headline followed. Fake cop menaces Marine's daughter. HOA power trip sparks backlash. Neighbors revolted. Petitions circulated. Meetings turned hostile. Mrs. Caldwell tried to save face, but the damage was done. We got another violation letter, this time for unauthorized events. Sarah laughed. Added to the case file. Then came a legal threat, defamation, they said. Sarah cited whistleblower protections, mailed them a copy of her DA complaint sealed with a wink. When our mailbox was smashed and trash dumped on our lawn, the cameras caught Vince again, this time paying teens to vandalize. They confessed. Charges followed. Sarah added everything to her growing mountain of evidence, sending it to the state regulator. The board called an emergency unity meeting. We sat front row. Mrs. Caldwell tried to spin it. But reporters asked the real questions. Financials. Oversight. Fraud. Neighbors shouted. One man waved a fine for sunflowers. Another held a violation for chalk drawings. To resign, they chanted. Caldwell fled. The room didn't that week. A recall vote ousted her and most of the board. New members were elected, decent people. An audit exposed misuse of funds. Unauthorized patrols were banned. Mrs. Caldwell sold her home in silence. Vince was charged. HOA operations were overhauled. Normalcy returned. Kids laughed again. Flags waved freely. The next cookout, Mr. Jenkins, a Vietnam vet, raised a toast. To Sarah. Heart of a warrior. Mind of a general. Cheers erupted. Sarah blushed. Later, she told me, it's not about being loud. It's about not backing down. A month later, a new plaque was unveiled in the park. A community thrives when its people stand together. Sarah smiled, watching kids race past. The neighbors gifted us a handmade sign, Cedar Grove thanks Sarah. She hung it near the sunflowers. She never bragged, just planted more. Newcomers heard whispers. The legend of the jogger who took down the HOA, and old-timers? They'd grin and say, "Oh, you haven't heard? Sit down. Let me tell you the story." Sarah would just smile, watering sunflowers, quietly reminding us what courage looks like.